Hi, and welcome to the second part of this tutorial on dependency injection in C#. We will be starting out with the project from the first video. We will then add in the support of modules for dependency injection, and then I'll show you how we can modify our services such that we can have multiple implementations of one interface. Okay, without further ado, let's just go straight ahead to the code. So I'm going to show you something that I think is really cool. And that is basically a way to create modules for our entire application, because we might have many different projects. We might want to create a lot of different services, and we might not always want to have them all in one huge file we can't really navigate around. So I really like to split it out. So I'm just going to create a new project. It's just going to be a class library. So basically what I want it to be called is dependency, if I could spell it, dependency injection sample.common. So in this class library, I'm in .NET 7, but in this class library, I'm just going to put in all my common functionalities that I want basically all projects to have access to. So in here, I'm going to add a new folder. I'm going to call it contracts, because for now I only have one thing that needs to be shared between multiple projects, and that is the iModule interface. So what I'm going to do is create a module such that the sensors project down here has a sensor module that can then be gathered by the core project and then instantiate all the services by itself. And you're going to see why it's smart. So I'm just going to create or define one function in here that we're going to use, and that's the configure services. It's an iService collection as input. You might remember is exactly the same as the configure services function in the other place, and then have it service collection. So it's going to say, okay, I need something. Basically just to install the dependency injection package and then import it. Just gonna let it to me. Okay, that was it. So what we need to do now is basically just create the module. So I'm gonna add a file down here, table class, and call it sensor module. Let's just call it that for now. Within this sensor module, I then want to do all the instantiation of our services. So let's go ahead and say it's an iModule first. Let's probably gonna say that, okay, do you mean the iModule that's defined the common project? Yes, I do. And then it says I need to implement the configure services method. So let's just go ahead and do that. Configure services. Now we're getting used to it almost. iService collection. It's the service collection. And what I'm going to do now is basically just add my transient services. I'm going to add the transient iSensor. It's the accelerometer. Let's take that one. And the service collection. Add transient. And then I also want to add my gyroscope, because maybe I want to use them in different places around the code and stuff like that. I just want to add them for now. So what I want to do now is basically, okay, so we have created the module, but we need to instantiate it somehow, or configure the services from up here, and we want to do it in a kind of smart way. So I'm going to add a folder called providers. And within the providers, I'm just going to create one class, and that is the module provider. The module provider is only going to be responsible for one thing, and that's always nice, of course, to be, but let's just show it. So I'm first going to define a lazy variable that's going to contain all my modules. It's the one in the common again. So I'm just going to call this one lazy modules. And it's going to be a new new of what? I'm gonna put in a function here, get all modules. It's going to complain, but that's because I'm going to create it right now. Private static list iModule. Get all modules. And this is where we're going to instantiate all the modules that can then be gathered from the lazy variable. I'm just going to return new list iModule, move this, and basically just create a new sensor module. That's it. So there is some manual work in getting the module. You could probably solve this in a lot of different ways, but I really find this one intuitive and understandable, so I'm just going to stick with that. And as you see right now, it's all private, and we need something to be public in order to get it from outside. I'm just going to create a list of iModules, call it modules, and then get my lazy, the value of my lazy variable. And that's basically it. Oh, I'm just going to make it static, the class itself. What I can then do now is basically delete this addition of transient. And then basically what I want to do is just to get my module provider, get all the modules, and then loop through all modules. So for each module, I'm just going to go ahead and say configure services with the service collection as input. And that's it. Now we're off to the program file right here. I have a very simple file where we basically loop through all the modules, configure the service for the individual modules, and that's it. We can then go into the individual modules, see whatever services it defines and stuff like that. So now we actually have a little bit of a problem, because what service is the robot going to use now? Because now we have two implementations specified of the iSensor interface. That could be a problem. So let's see what happens when I run it. Just appear on the screen. It says the sensor with name gyroscope has the following value of 3. Why did it say that? That's because that's the last sensor that we had added that implements this interface. Okay, so we have a little problem right here with having multiple implementations of the same interface. And how can this then be solved? Well, there are actually many ways to solve it. What I usually do, sometimes do at least, is define a generic where it basically has to state a class. And that's quite an easy way to do it. So in the accelerometer, it now says that, okay, it requires one type argument, that basically we're just going to have it as accelerometer. And the same down here, just with gyroscope. That's actually it. Now it's different types, but it's still done in a flexible way. I really like this. You might have other ideas, and I would really love to hear your ideas. And please write in the comments if you have another idea you think could be beneficial for other guys to know. So what we now have to specify is what type of iSensor it is that we need, because we might need the accelerometer up here. Let's say if that's the one we want to use. Then that's basically it for now. If that, we need the iSensor with the type, generic type accelerometer. See, it appeared on the screen again. Yes, now we get the accelerometer. You might be thinking, okay, why do I need this? Well, imagine that why do I need multiple implementations of the same interface? Well, imagine that we had another robot service. Maybe it was called mobile robot service, and it needed a gyroscope. Then there's no way for us to split whatever service we need, instead of maybe going into the program manually stating what service it needs from here. Something like that. That's a lot of ways, but I really like this way of doing it. We've specified in the type. Okay, so that was it for this tutorial. However, I have chosen to add in a last part of this tutorial I really want to show you how to incorporate unit testing and how dependency injection can help you to unit test more easily. I'm going to add a new project. I'm going to use the N-unit test project. Next. It's going to be dependency injection sample and just have it called tests .unit. .NET7, that's fine. So let's just start with, so it basically starts out with this global using N-unit. I don't really like having that, but do whatever you want here. I'll just remove it for now and have it in the individual files. So it states that it needs to have the using N-unit framework. I very much prefer it this way. So what we're going to do is first of all define, let's just call the class robot tests. First we're going to define the robot service. And it's unit under test, that's why I call it UUT. Do whatever you prefer here, this is just one way of setting up your unit test. And now we get to some interesting stuff. So I need to create an instance of my robot service, but it needs the iSensor interface or a class that implements this interface as input. And how we're going to do that? So what we could do was create a new accelerometer and then give it as input, but then we would basically be testing two elements and we only want to test the robot service. So what I'm going to do now is basically go into NuGet packages and then install a package that's called mock, M-O-Q. And that's basically a library that helps us mock a service. So what it does is it creates like a fake instance of the service and then helps us with defining what it should do and different functions that are called and stuff like that. So I'm just going to create a new mark of the iSensor. Let's say it's the accelerometer in this instance. Is imported. Okay. And then we're going to set it up. So it's going to be set up like this. Let's just quickly do it. So x dot, let's say name dot returns. It's just going to return that it's mock sensor. That's the name of it. And then we can just provide it as an input down here. Sensor mock. Oh, and then we're just going to extract the object from it. Okay, like that. So usually you would test something really interesting. Maybe it would be that you had some functionality. You would test, okay, what's the output of this, whatever. We are just going to call this print function and just have it pass. Anything interesting in this one. I'm just going to go ahead and run the test. Let's see, let's unfold these ones. Okay, they all successfully ran. Oh, there's only one. And okay, so it states down here, the sensor with name mock sensor has the following value 0. What we could then do is also set up the sensor mock. Set up. Maybe we also want to set up the x.read sensor value. And let's just say that, okay, what's the return? 100. Let's just have it return 100. Oh, if I can. Semicolon. So let's just see if it prints out mock sensor and a value of 100. That's exactly what it does. The sensor with name mock sensor has the following value 100. So that was it for this tutorial. I really hope that you enjoyed getting to see how we can set up dependency injection and some examples of how it can help us make better programs. Thank you for watching. If you would like to see more videos like this in the future, please like and subscribe. Thank you.